This
presentation,
conference will now
please
be
feel free.
recorded.
Oh, there we go. Get the recording started. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat box and we'll answer them afterwards. So, again, welcome. We are SilverOpus. We craft journeys for sophisticated, adventurous travelers orientated for ages 50 plus. We have small group tours of no more than 14 people to ensure intimacy, camaraderie, and meaningful experiences. And we believe adventure gets better with age. And as we've rebranded from Discover Scandinavia Tours to Silver Opus, we'll have even more destinations to share with you, including Switzerland, Brazil, and the United Kingdom. But those are topics for another day. Today, we're focusing on two Scandinavian countries, Norway and Sweden. Which is the best choice for active travelers and nature lovers? Which country is going to give you the most? Will it be Norway or is it going to be Sweden? Before we begin, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Elle Taylor, and I am your Nordic Experience Specialist. While I'm supposed to help you decide, hopefully, today between visiting Norway or Sweden, I do need to be fully transparent with you because when asked to decide between these two destinations for myself, it's quite difficult. As a child, I went to Norwegian camp for cultural and language immersion. Now, keep in mind, this was several years ago, so please excuse some of my pronunciation later on. And in my college days, I studied at the University of Oslo in Norway for the summer. However, my husband proposed to me in Stockholm, Sweden, 12 years ago. And the picture in the top left corner of a bench overlooking the old town and the royal palace is actually where he proposed. So I have very strong emotional connections to both of these destinations. And it really comes down for me what my intention is for the trip. What am I seeking to discover or experience? So, with that said, let's get started in Norway. So, Norway has a population of about 5.5 million people. The primary language is Norwegian. The country is roughly 1.5 times the size of the United Kingdom, and it has 63,962 miles of coastline. As National Geographic points out, this coastline, if you stretched it out, would circle the world 2.5 times. It's the second longest coastline in the world after Canada. And just to help you visualize the overall length of the country, if you were to drive from the southernmost point of Norway to the world's northernmost city in Hammerfest, northern Norway, it would take you approximately 30 hours, which is about the same amount of time to drive the entirety of US Highway 1 from Key West, Florida to Fort Kent in Maine. Although I think Norway would take much longer in actuality due to all the photo stops along the way, and Google Maps certainly does not take that into account in my experience. Now, Norway is known as the land of the fjords. A fjord is a long, narrow sea inlet with steep cliffs created by glaciers. Norway has over 1,700 fjords, and many of these extend in from the western coast, where you'll find two UNESCO World Heritage Site fjords, Fjord and Fjord. You'll also find over 50,000 islands, and approximately two-thirds of the country is mountainous. So, to experience these awe-inspiring and just dramatic landscapes, imagine kayaking through these icy blue waters with waterfalls cascading down sheer rock faces, which may or may not look like a troll who got turned into stone by the sunlight, or so the local legends say, or even hiking to Preikestolen for panoramic views. And if you look at the picture on the far right, you'll see Preikestolen, which is also known as Pulpit Rock, or literally translated, the priest's chair. It's one of Norway's most famous hikes, and it is almost 2,000 feet above Fjord. And you can take what's called a ribboat safari as well into the fjords, and that's what that middle picture shows. You can go glacier hiking, and in the winter, there's alpine skiing, snowshoeing, and snowmobiling. And if you'd like to give your legs a rest, you can opt for enjoying some of these majestic views by taking a cable car or a gondola to the top of certain mountains, or even stopping at a roadside viewing platform, such as the picture on the left that's overlooking Orlandsfjord, just outside of Flåm. Now, speaking of Flåm, for an unforgettable adventure, I would recommend embarking on a fjord cruise from Bergen to Flåm. In Flåm, you can take a ride on one of the world's most scenic train journeys, the Flåm Railway. This railway is one of the steepest standard gauge railway lines in the world, with over 80% of the journey running on a gradient of 5.5%. This train runs through just spectacular scenery. There's steep mountainsides, there's views of roaring waterfalls and deep valleys. You'll travel through 20 tunnels, the majority of which are actually carved by hand. There's just so many viewpoints that for many people, a single trip is simply not enough. And a highlight on this journey is to actually stop at a waterfall, Kjosfossen, which is only accessible by this train. The waterfall is only 305 feet tall, but if the water levels are high and you're feeling adventurous, you can step closer. You just might need a rain jacket as you get out of the train. Another recommendation from personal experience is to sit at the very front or back of the train car as the windows move, so you can pull the window down for clearer pictures. Like this lady who's kind of hanging out the window, I would just maybe recommend to keep all limbs and especially phones inside of the train car. Now, Sweden is a destination of a different nature. Its population is almost double that of Norway at 10.5 million people. Swedish is the primary language. It is the largest nation in Scandinavia. And unlike Norway, Sweden is a member of the European Union, although they still use their own currency, the krona. While Norway is the land of the fjords and mountains, Sweden is the land of lakes and forests. In fact, almost 70% of Sweden is forested. And with over 100,000 lakes, you're never too far from a beautiful lakeside. You will still find some impressive mountains. Part of the Scandinavian mountain range shared with Norway is here, though overall, Norway has significantly more mountains. Due to this, you'll find more lowland, especially in central Sweden, which results in more agricultural areas. So overall, you'll have plenty of opportunities for swimming, kayaking, fishing, boating, cycling, hiking, even mushroom and berry picking in the summer. Even when you're in the capital city of Stockholm, which is the largest capital city within Scandinavia, you'll still be surrounded by water, as the city is spread across 14 islands and connected by 57 bridges. It's part of what's called the Stockholm Archipelago. With over 30,000 islands and skerries, it stretches 50 miles east into the Baltic Sea. And it was named by National Geographic as one of the world's top destinations for 2025. So, for those looking to break up their cultural city stay with something more active, I would highly recommend taking a kayaking tour from Stockholm into the archipelago. While many people may hear Lapland and think of Finland, this is actually a vast Arctic region that spans northern Norway, Sweden, Finland, and part of Russia. About a quarter of Sweden is actually part of this territory. This is the homeland of the Sami, an indigenous people known for their nomadic reindeer herding. And while in the Arctic, you'll still experience diverse and dramatic landscapes, ranging from high mountain ranges in western Sweden, which slope down into these forests and wetlands in the east, while in Norway, you'll experience rugged peaks, deep fjords, dramatic coastal cliffs, in addition to Arctic tundra and permafrost. You'll also find the world's first ice hotel in Jukkasjärvi, Sweden, which is rebuilt every winter. While in Kirkenes, Norway, you can stay in an ice hotel that's actually open year round. And it's one of the only places I know of that in the winter you can be picked up from the airport by sled dogs. So, talk about arriving to your hotel in style. And by the way, as a little side note here, for anyone curious about sleeping in an ice hotel, the amount of layers and the thick sleeping bags you are given, you'll be nice and toasty warm. In fact, from my experience at the Kirkenes Ice Hotel in Norway, the main reason people may not be able to sleep through the night in the ice suite is surprisingly not because of the cold, but rather because of how incredibly quiet it is. So moving on, while reindeer dominate the landscape here, you'll also find moose, Arctic foxes, wolverines, and brown bears. And with up to 24 hours of daylight, the midnight sun may keep you up past your bedtime, which, speaking of little sleep, if you travel in the winter, you won't have the midnight sun, but instead you'll hopefully experience some of the best nightlife, the aurora borealis. This picture of the Northern Lights was actually taken last week by one of our tour directors in Northern Norway. And this year is the sun hitting its solar maximum. It's an 11-year or so cycle, which means increased solar activity resulting in more solar flares. To put it simply, more chances of seeing the Northern Lights. So this term friluftsliv is actually or technically a Norwegian word. It's a shared Nordic concept, though, of getting outdoors. It essentially translates to open air living or free air life. It's the essence of boosting your mental, spiritual, and physical well being while being immersed in nature. So, in both of these countries, you're going to find ample opportunities for hiking, biking, kayaking at varying degrees of difficulty. You'll find locals enjoying parks and doing outdoor activities all year long, even in the dark winter days and frigid temperatures. There's a Norwegian saying that there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothes. And you'll really see the locals embracing this mentality. This is also closely connected to the Norwegian and Swedish concept of allemansretten, or the right to roam. This right is protected by law and ensures that everyone can experience nature, essentially unhindered access to the countryside or uncultivated land. So, meaning you can hike nearly anywhere you want, just as long as you, of course, pick up your rubbish and show respect for nature. So, with all of these similarities and differences, let's start to talk a little bit more about food. Both countries, you're going to find a focus on hearty dishes and preserving food with smoking, pickling, even fermenting techniques, because historically, this was a way to ensure families had enough food to survive the harsh winters. Norway is very fish focused with its abundant fjords and coastlines. You will find gravlaks or cured salmon, pickled herring, turfisk or dried cod. Only 3% of Norway land is suitable for farming, so therefore you get that really strong focus on seafood and meat from animals that can adapt to that cold, windy, mountainous conditions, such as sheep and even reindeer. Swedish cuisine, on the other hand, does include more pork, beef, game. If anybody's had lunch at IKEA, yes, you will find meatballs with mashed potatoes and lingonberry jam and pickled cucumber. Seafood is still popular in Sweden, salmon, your herring, and especially crayfish. In the summer, Swedes host crayfish parties with crayfish themed decor and hats, even. And for indulgences, they both love their pulsa, or their hot dogs and sausages. Ice cream is eaten year round, even in the winter. But if you are in Norway or Sweden on a Saturday, be sure to visit a local grocery or sweet store to buy bulk candies. It's so common that both Norwegians and Swedes have a word for it, lørdagsgodteri, which essentially translates to Saturday sweets. In fact, the Swedish Board of Agriculture estimates that the average Swede binges on 35 pounds of candy per year. 35 pounds. The Swedes also take their coffee breaks very seriously. Fika is a beloved tradition of pausing to enjoy coffee and pastries, especially Swedish cinnamon buns, as shown in this picture, with friends or colleagues. It's a moment to slow down, appreciate the good things in life, a time to pause, reflect, and savor the moment. It's somewhat simpler and more spontaneous than the Brits' afternoon tea tradition, and you can fika almost anywhere, a cafe, out in the woods, or in a nearby park. Some companies have even added a clause to contracts stating that employees are entitled to fika breaks. It's that ingrained in the Swedish psyche. All right, so while both countries boast spectacular nature and food, their cultural elements may help sway your choice a little bit. So in Norway, you'll find rich Viking history, colorful seaside villages like Bergen, and traditional rødbrød, or these fishermen's cabins. You can visit the Viking Ship Museum in Oslo. It's an absolute must to see well-preserved ships and artifacts from the Viking era, as well as a visit to the famous artwork by Edvard Munch titled The Scream, as shown here. And after spending time in the mountains and the fjords, you may understand this iconic painting a little bit better, as it was based on Munch's actual experience of a scream piercing through nature, interrupting his contemplative walk. The capital in Oslo is vibrant and a modern city. It's known for its stunning waterfront, rich cultural scene, and deep connection to nature. It offers everything from these world-class museums to forested hiking trails that are just minutes from the city center. And by modern, here's a glimpse of some of the architecture that you'll see. On the left is one of the city's most iconic landmarks, the Oslo Opera House, that invites you to walk actually onto its sloping roof for views of the fjord and the city skyline. While Sweden has a mix of more rural and urban landscapes with these, ancient castles and modern designs found throughout. Even in Stockholm, you'll notice a more historic and picturesque ambiance, especially in Gamla stan, which is pictured on the right, which is the old town. There are modern districts, and the city overall maintains a classic European feel with colorful facades, winding alleys, and of course, those cozy cafes for your fika break. And after wandering through Gamla stan, you can step into Sweden's pop culture legacy to learn more by visiting the ABBA Museum, or explore other museums such as the Nobel Prize Museum or the Vasa Ship Museum, which is home to this recovered wooden ship that sank on its maiden voyage in 1628. Gosh, so how to choose? If you crave adventure and dramatic landscapes, Norway's rugged mountains, deep fjords, and rich maritime history definitely will get your heart racing. where the nature just feels so bold and untamed. Now, Sweden, on the other hand, is enchanting in its own way, with serene forests, the shimmering lakes, and the seamless blend of culture and nature. You got that warm aroma of the cinnamon rolls during that fika break, with that combination of tranquil beauty of the landscapes and charming towns. You get that overall sense of peace and wonder. So, I guess it's really up to you and whether you seek that thrill or tranquility, dramatic or enchanting. Both Norway and Sweden offer their own magic, just depending on which calls to you more. But why settle for one when you can have both? If you're not surprised, this is where SilverOpus steps in. Each trip is designed to immerse you in authentic culture, balance iconic sites with local life, and offer personal discovery moments. The key ingredient is balance, and that doesn't happen by accident. All of our tours, of all of them, I would say that our Fika by the Fjord, which takes you to both Norway and Sweden, really does this the best. Many of our active travelers prefer more of that soft adventure that blends the pleasures of the healthy outdoor activities with cultural immersion and luxurious comfort. So just imagine going on a leisurely hike along some scenic trails with breathtaking views, and then being able to unwind in charming accommodations with exquisite local cuisine. So really, it's an active experience designed, though, for less for thrill seekers and more for those who enjoy the balancing of mild adventure, relaxation, fine dining, and that rich cultural tapestry of Scandinavia. So in 10 days, you'll travel from Bergen, Norway, into the fjords, and then into hip modern Oslo. From there, you'll continue your journey into Sweden, following the coastline into these seaside villages where the locals vacation, and you'll find friendly, laid back, charming cities. It's really a blend of nature, culture, history, just very, very local experiences. And we have departures this year in May, July, and August. And to give you a little bit more of a brief overview of the tour, starting in Norway, you'll meet your tour director and your fellow travel companions in Bergen. And remember, each of our departures is restricted to a maximum of 14 travelers, which guarantees a meaningful and intimate experience for all. So beginning in Bergen, where you will have a guided tour through Bryggen Wharf and its colorful wooden houses, a UNESCO site that you'll see on the left. You'll be immersed into the city's Hanseatic trading past, and you'll kick off your adventure with the traditional Bergen feast, where you must try the fish soup, by the way. From there, you're going to cruise through the spectacular Sognefjord on your way to Balestrand, where you'll spend some time nestled in this charming fjord village. And the majestic Sognefjord, it's nicknamed the King of the Fjords, as it is Norway's longest and deepest fjord. A favorite here is visiting a quaint cider farm where you can sip locally crafted cider, meet some farm animals, and take in just that tranquil beauty of the fjordside setting. And this region in the fjords is particularly renowned for its apple orchards. Then it's on to Oslo, where you'll travel by train, and yes, you'll experience the scenic and engineering marvel of the Flom Railway. In Oslo, you'll have a chance to explore the city and some of its famous museums at Bygdøy Peninsula. And there's really something for all interests here, from learning about the famous Fram expeditions to North and South Poles, the Kon-Tiki Museum with the original wooden raft that sailed all the way to the Pacific Ocean, and the open-air Norwegian Folk Museum with its wooden stave church is not to be missed. Or if you're feeling more active, you can take an optional hiking tour through the forests and up to Holmenkollen ski jump, which is pictured on the far right side. Now, as we travel into Sweden, we're going to be going through Sweden's west coast, which offers a blend of seaside adventure, fresh seafood, and these cultural gems. First, we'll cross into Trollhättan, which is known for its scenic waterways, canals, and locks. You'll enjoy a memorable seafood lunch of local blue mussels prepared right in front of you. And then in the seaside town of Bohuslän, you'll have the option of exploring the coast and its granite islands by kayak, or go for a stroll on a nearby island, or even taking a swim. The final leg of our tour takes you into Gothenburg, the second largest city in Sweden, and also, while smaller, still a very charming coastal city of Helsingborg as well. We'll even visit a vineyard to enjoy some sparkling wines and have options to bike around town, visit one of the Swedish royal family's country castles and gardens, or even cross into Denmark for modern art. And of course, don't worry, there will be plenty of fika moments along the way. So, overall, Sweden's immersive experiences, I think, really create that perfect contrast to Norway's dramatic landscape. So, you really have this journey blending culture, nature, and Nordic charm. And after days filled with adventure, your hotel should be more than just a place to sleep. It should be part of this experience. So that's why we carefully select boutique hotels that reflect this charm, culture, and authenticity of each of our destinations. So rather than the big chains, we choose these boutique properties with local character just to ensure that every night is going to feel as immersive as the days that you've spent exploring these areas. So, a few highlights to mention during this tour. Starting from the left is Opus 16 in Bergen. It is a boutique hotel that was actually designed by Edvard Grieg's family, which blends this historic charm with modern elegance. And my favorite part is that it's just steps away from Bryggen Wharf, so it's really an unbeatable location for exploring the city. In the center, we have Kviknes Hotel in Sognefjord. This is a historic Swiss style gem that's right on the fjord's edge. So you really get those breathtaking views while meeting this old world elegance. And then we're going to end the program at the Clarion Hotel CU in Helsingborg, which is a very stylish, modern waterfront hotel. It's got a rooftop bar and panoramic sea views. So it's really just the perfect blend of relaxation and Scandinavian design while still offering you that easy access to the coastal treasures. It's really a great way to toast to the end of a fabulous trip. So come take a fika break by the fjords and join us on our upcoming departure, May 25th through June 4th. And as a thank you for attending today's webinar, you'll save $500 per person if you book by next Wednesday, March 5th. To book, you can simply call us at 800-936-2814 or email info@silveropus.com. It's that easy. And after the presentation, not only are you going to receive a recording of this, but you'll also receive a more in-depth, detailed day-by-day itinerary of this ideal Swedish-Norwegian combo. And of course, my team and I, we are here to help you. So if you have any questions about this itinerary, our tours, the destinations, please reach out. And with that, we do have a few minutes left. If anybody has any questions, you can please submit them into the chat box for us. And there was one that had came through at the beginning, so I can start with that. Question here is that the tour ends in southern Sweden. Yes. What do you do then? So good question. So at the end of the tour, the closest international airport is in Copenhagen, Denmark, actually. And it is a short 45-minute transfer away. So if you have more time, we can absolutely help you plan a few days to explore this additional capital city. Or alternatively, you can also take a train north to Stockholm. It takes about 4 hours, where of course you can also fly home from, or spend some extra time exploring this city of islands. I've got another question here of when's the best time to go? Well, I would say, and I don't mean to be cheesy, but really anytime you're able to go is the best time. But I guess it really just goes back to if you're thinking about visiting Norway and Sweden, it's more about what do you want to do? So in the summer is going to be perfect for hiking and kayaking and cycling with all those long daylight hours, even experiencing the midnight sun above the Arctic Circle. On the other hand, if you travel in winter, so more of December through March, you can get all of those snow-based activities and hopefully some northern lights viewing. There's also Christmas markets, and you can enjoy more of those traditional Scandinavian winter festivities. Now, spring and fall, in the spring, of course, you've got flowers blooming, melting snow. Um, I love the springtime. I was in Bergen this past May, and as I went into the fjords, for me, just the scenery was spectacular because there was still snow at the top of the mountain peaks, and I just thought it just made for really, really beautiful pictures. The fall, so like in autumn, September, October, of course, you're getting more of that crisp air. The apples are in season for those cideries. You get a lot of that vibrant foliage and fewer crowds as well. So, again, I think really anytime you're able to go is the best time. Um, let's see here. As a US citizen, do I need a visa to enter Norway or Sweden? At this time, right now, you just need a valid passport that's valid 6 months upon your return. So, right now, it is very easy. There may be some changes with all of Europe in the future, but so far, right now, very easy. And the changes that are coming are going to be just a very quick, short application. So, very, very minor. Um, Another question is if there are minimum ages on our tours. We do have a minimum age requirement for our group departures. It is a minimum age of 25 years old. However, if you would like to travel with your family, your children, your grandkids, or even just your own friend group, we can privatize a departure just for your group and offer some group savings as well for that. Hmm. All right. So, what is the activity level for our Norway tours, especially for people that are in their 70s? I would say our activity levels for our Norway tours, nothing is extreme. While we will have walking tours, for example, through Bergen and Oslo, our walking tours are done at a leisurely pace. It is definitely not something that you need to bring your workout clothes and sweatbands with. There, with these cities, there may be a couple of steps, stepping up onto a train platform and off. And when we have days when there are activities such as kayaking or hiking, there are normally choices. So if you don't want to go kayaking, but you would rather go on that leisurely stroll along the beach, or you could do something that's a little bit more culturally immersive, such as at the very end of the tour, going to the Modern Art Museum, the Louisiana, in Denmark. So we try to offer something for everybody and for all of those levels. So if you want to be more active, you can. If you'd rather just sit back, relax, and enjoy that fika, you also can do that as well. Uh, Another question. This looks amazing. Thank you. If I want to go on this tour and spend some time in Stockholm, can you help me with an extension? Yes, absolutely. We can help you with an extension. And with that, with any of our extensions before or after the tour, you're going to be traveling independently or privately, but you don't need to worry. We're going to help you with all of that planning, with the airport arrivals, with the hotels, with excursions, with private guides in the city so that you can start to kind of get a feel for your surroundings. And even if that's going kayaking in the Stockholm archipelago, or maybe even doing a city tour that brings you to that Vasa ship museum, we will have guides all set up for you. So you don't need to worry. You can sit back and relax. And then if you need to leave, go ahead. Feel free to just head out. Again, a copy of this will be sent out to you. There's a couple more questions coming in. I'm going to try to take time to answer here quickly. There's another question about just how are we getting around as a group? Are there buses involved? So on this particular tour, and actually all of our tours, we're not going to be putting you on one of those giant 50 passenger buses. If anything, we're trying to get away from those to get you more of those local, authentic experiences. In this tour in particular, you're going to be traveling on ferry, trains. There may be a few transfers where you're going to be in a more of like a airport shuttle bus. So again, nothing huge. So very easy, and I would say in general for Scandinavia, it's very easy to get around using a mix of those ferries, trains, even internal flights aren't that long as well. And then once you're in the capital city itself, you can easily walk or use public transportation to see some of the sites. All right. And then the last question is about currency. Do you need to have local currency, so cash with you, or is it mostly credit cards? That's a very good question. And actually, it's mostly credit cards. When I was last in Norway in August, majority of the places I went to only accepted credit card. It was very hard to use the local currency, the kroner. A couple grocery stores took it, so when I got my sweet bags, I was able to use it. But otherwise, you really don't need to be bringing cash. I would say just having that credit card. And of course, there are ATMs nearby. So if for some reason you need to, you absolutely still can get local currency. Norway is a little bit more expensive than Sweden. Interestingly, a lot of Swedes go over to Norway, though, and work in Norway because they're paid higher wages in Norway. So it's all relative. It kind of balances out for the Norwegians in that regard. But it was really interesting because during COVID, a lot of Norwegians were not able to cross the border to Sweden just due to closures. So they used to go over across the border just to get cheaper groceries. And so now, of course, everything's back to normal and they're able to do that, which is great. And when you're traveling together as a group, you probably aren't even going to notice that you are crossing a border. It's not going to be as formal of a border station. Um, so it makes that very easy. And again, the best thing about traveling with a group is that you've got your dedicated tour director who's going to be giving you all of the insights, that insider knowledge, and is going to be helping prepare you for each day ahead and reminding you really your biggest concern is just what time do I need to wake up to enjoy my breakfast before starting today's activities. So it makes it very easy. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We are going to end the webinar, but if there's any additional questions, I will respond via email. And again, you can feel free to give us a call, email us at info@SilverOpus as well with additional questions. So thank you very much for your time today and spending some time learning about Norway and Sweden with us.